All right, Pickle, it is time for Helpful Honda Mailbag Friday.
The North Texas Honda dealers want to help you score some great deals on award-winning Hondas. Stop by your Helpful Honda dealer today or visit ntxhondadealers.com to learn more. The North Texas Honda dealers
high school football, college football, recruiting, lifestyle, romance, travel, you can direct those to Pickle and I. If you have questions about broadcasting, or you have questions about Houston area high school football, or you have questions about Kanye West.
Or Uno.
And tips and tricks for the
Which
game
I don't know
of
if you
Uno.
know that.
I didn't. Learning something new every day. Love to learn. Please direct those to our special guest, Gavin Moritz, who will be on the call tonight for Texan Live for a Task Seat and Geyer. So is that fair? Is that a fair summary of your world? It's Uno, it's Houston area high school football, it's broadcasting, it's Kanye West.
I think that's fair.
Okay, that's
We'll start it off with tell Tepper the Uno thing. This is actually super interesting.
So I actually collect different decks of Uno.
How cool is that? Have you ever thought, like, you want to talk about an obscure thing? People ask you,
Okay,
what do you collect?
I have a number of follow-ups. First of all,
how dare you?
First of all, there are different decks of Uno?
There are several.
Okay, how do they differ?
Do you want examples?
Yeah, of course I do.
Okay. So I have between 20 and 25.
Okay.
At the moment. I've been collecting for about a year and a half.
And
maybe.
they're all different.
They're all different.
Okay.
I have like a Legend of Zelda one.
Oh, I didn't know they made
themed Uno.
I didn't know they did
themed
branded
ones. Yes.
different decks of Uno.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Can you be good at Uno?
I have in my Twitter bio self-proclaimed best Uno player in Texas.
Oh,
wow.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
Have y'all ever played Spicy Uno?
I have.
That's fun.
I don't know what spicy Uno is.
It's Uno with a little bit of spice.
What's the spice?
Different rules, like some you play it differently, but like if a zero's laid down, like everyone has to slap the table, like that kind of thing.
So
it's just added.
So you do think Uno's a skill?
I would say it's a skill that I am very skilled at.
So you would proclaim yourself the king of Uno in Texas?
If you guys out there think you can beat me, if you guys think you can find someone that can beat me at Uno,
Put your money where your mouth is.
Let's go.
Wow. Well, I have some off-season ideas suddenly.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. So there's that. So if you have questions about Uno, please direct them to Gavin Moritz as well. We got about 20 minutes to get through some questions. Pickle, has anybody asked any questions?
We sure do. The hot question so far has been
How dare you?
One, yes, you are actually correct about that. Secondly, Shiner Comanche's taking on Poth tonight in a fun little 2A game down there. And one side question, we will have highlights of that game. We're sending a videographer down there, so people were asking. You can catch that on High School Scoreboard Live.
Fun game.
Yep.
Really excited about this. This game is in Poth. It's weird. Poth tends to be a pretty high-powered offense. They tend to be a team that, under Jeff Luna, has kind of outscored their problems. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? This year, it kind of feels like the defense is taking center stage, so it's a little bit weird to get you to wrap your head around. But it's a really fun matchup of unbeatens down there with Shiner and Poth. As far as things that I'm looking for in this game, this is going to be a really interesting test for Poth up front because this is a really physical Shiner team that you kind of know what they're about. You know that they're going to run the ball with Dalton Brooks and Doug Brooks. They're going to be solid up front. They're going to kind of do the things they need to do. One thing that's notable, I think, about Shiner, they had that win over Hallettsville. The last couple of weeks, I don't think that they've necessarily been tested. They played Blanco, and then they played. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly what this win means, but they played San Antonio Davenport, who is like they're a new school. They're kind of playing they're playing a non-UIL schedule, kind of an outlaw schedule because they want to get some varsity experience. But that's like a 5A team. Yeah. And so they played like a 5A team, and they beat them. They doubled them up 28-14. So it's weird to know what.
Super weird because usually with Shiner they're playing banger after banger after banger, and so we have they beat 3 different 3A teams. You know
exactly right. And so here's what I want to see in this game. I want to see who matches up front. Who's obviously going to be able to take the beating up front. I want to see if this Poth Poth, the last time we saw them out there, they played Falls City, who they're bigger than, and they won 17-14. Can they get that offense going against what's been a very good defensive team in Shiner that, by the way, has played some really good rushing teams like Hallettsville and come away with a win? That's something that I'm interested in. Can Poth get the running game going?
Well, wasn't Stepp the one that was saying, too, that it's weird because we're used to seeing Poth as like this major defensive powerhouse, and now it kind of seems like it's flipped the script?
No, it's the opposite.
Oh, it's the opposite way.
Poth tends to be a high-powered offense, and typically this year they have been more. Their defense has been the better side of it. So that's something that's going to be interesting. Does it matter that Poth is coming off a bye week? Shiner played last week. I don't know. We'll see. Super interested in this game. This would be another feather in the cap for Shiner if they can come away with it. This is a 2A against a 3A, so I don't know if I put a ton of stock into it, but very interested in this. And by the way, Shiner next week they take on Burton, who's undefeated, and then they get Wall to close out non-district. So.
Just an easy cakewalk, right?
So Daniel Boddicker, a glutton for punishment.
Yep.
Anyway, I picked Shiner. I feel mildly okay about it. Stepp is pretty sure Shiner's going to win this game. I don't want to speak for him. I know he's in the comments. He's pretty sure that Shiner's going to win this game. I am less sure, but I do pick the Comanches in this one. What's next, Pickle?
All right, let's head over to your thoughts on Graham at Decatur.
Oh, I wonder who asked that one. So Graham's had a weird year. Graham's 1-1 on the year. They have what I would consider to be a pretty, it's weird. I think they have a good loss and like a okay win.
Yeah.
Their win is against unbeaten, or rather winless Alvarado by 1.
Again, win the Clunkers.
Win the Clunkers, right? And then they play Springtown, who's a good team, and they lose 34-22. And so it's like, how do you balance that? They're coming off a bye week, taking on a Decatur team that I think is actually a really good matchup for them. They do have a common opponent. They both played Alvarado. And it's kind of a similar situation for Decatur. They have 2 losses that I would say their 2 best results are their 2 losses. They lost 21-7 to Kennedale, and they kind of got blown out by Midlothian Heritage. So I would say those are the better results than beating Alvarado 27-14. My question is going to be whether, which of this Decatur defense shows up, right? In 2 of their 3 games, I think that their defense has been pretty good, but then last week they kind of stunk it up against Midlothian Heritage. For, Graham is a team that their offense has been a little bit inconsistent this year. And that's one thing that I'm particularly interested in. Can they get that? Find that consistency whenever it counts? Now, look, this is still a non-district game, but I would look at, again, one of the things that we had big questions about for Graham was that they were going to be pretty young this year, including, by the way, they have a freshman quarterback in Ty Thompson. This is a big test for him, and this is a big test for the youth movement on Graham. Especially, where's this game? This game is at Decatur. So going on the road, tough atmosphere, but they're coming off of a bye week. A lot to learn from this, and I think we'll have a better grasp of where Graham stands. For Decatur, this would be a real nice bounce back win if they could do that, especially considering next week they're going to play Glen Rose, which I think is tough. And then remember, they get Springtown in district. They get Wichita Falls Hershey, who I think is playing really well. They get Lake Worth, who is, by the way, 3-0, and it has a really good opportunity. I think, who do they play tonight? They're going to be 4-0 after tonight, so keep an eye on them. Anyway, I think a really good measuring stick game at a good time for both these teams here in week 4. So interested in it. I probably lean towards. I'll take Graham. I think it's close though.
Yep.
It's a 1-score game.
All right, we got a question for Gavin here, and I believe this is the game that you are covering tomorrow night. Summer Creek's game.
Summer Creek and West Side. Yes.
Yes. Okay. It looks like probably Summer Creek's going to kind of roll in this game, but what about them should people be looking out for tomorrow?
So Summer Creek's got some returning starters. They have Kelvin Banks playing left tackle. They have Torrey Curry at running back. I was looking over some of my game notes that I have for tomorrow earlier on my way here, and not while driving, of course. Red lights. I was looking at some of my game prep, and I noticed Torrey Curry's back. Kelvin Banks is back anchoring that left side of the offensive line. They have a lot of returning starters, but they do have a new quarterback this year. So I'd like to see how Summer Creek matches up with a West Side team that they typically aren't playing teams like this. And West Side, though, on the year, they are undefeated technically. They've only played the 1 game.
They beat Fort Bend Austin.
Yes, so they are both technically undefeated. I saw that on the
Yeah. One thing that I think is interesting about this game, I'll throw this out there, is for Summer Creek, they have blitzkrieged everyone they've played, right? They dominated Friendswood. They dominated Decaney. They dominated Conroe last week, which I thought was actually rather impressive. That was an unbeaten Conroe team.
Right.
They should win tonight. Then they get a bye week, and then their next 4 games, unbeaten CE King, unbeaten Atascocita, North Shore, and Beaumont Westbrook.
Oof.
So it is going to the heat's going to get turned up in a hurry. This is the last tune-up for them before it gets real, as the kids would say. So I'm interested.
Is that what the kids would say?
So I want to say, I don't know. Let's ask the kids. What I want to see is a crisp performance from Summer Creek, that they look like they are ready to go to battle against the heavyweights within District 21-6A.
Yeah, and for Summer Creek, this is a game, like you said, they need to play crisp, and I think they have to play their best football right now going into this next 4 games of district play in 21-6A, because you don't want to come out against Westside and maybe look, not as good as you'd want to, and then head into a game against CE King and then Atascocita right after that, and then North Shore and then Westbrook.
This is one of those games that I'll probably text you after, because I'll be Pickles dragging me to a football game. But I'll probably text you after, and I'm going to ask you how Summer Creek looked. That if they looked like they were in control and in command and playing crisp football, then I'm willing to buy them in as maybe that sleeper in District 21-6A. So, okay.
This is a question that everyone can answer here. Who is your team that you're most concerned about at this point in the season? Who will be in? Oh yeah, who should be in panic mode after this?
Well, I mentioned Judson. A little worried about them. I will throw one other team onto. We need it's not like upset alert, and it's not like panic time, but it's like we need some sort of phrase for like putting them on notice, right? I'm putting them on notice. Like Hewitt Midway better figure it out, and they better figure it out tonight.
Yeah,
okay?
Because they've got Duncanville next week.
So Hewitt Midway's 0-3. Okay, now they play a tough non-district, so it's like that's one of those teams I think they're better than their record indicates. They're 0-3. Tonight they open up district against Waxahachie, and a Waxahachie team that is sore. A Waxahachie team that it feels like they let the Battle of 287 get away last week, and a team that I would categorize as a sleeper in District 11-6A. If Midway wins this game, hunky-dory.
Yeah,
everything's
you're good.
Okay.
Go pick up that 3rd or 4th spot in district.
If they lose this game, they still have Duncanville, DeSoto, and Cedar Hill. Not to mention, I think, a resurgent Mansfield team, all still on the horizon. I don't want to throw must-win out there for Midway, but if they don't win this game tonight, they're in severe danger of missing the playoffs, which would be rather strange. So keep an eye on Midway. That's one team that I don't want to say panic, but tonight's an extremely important night for them, in my opinion, as far as the way that the schedule is going to break. What about you, Gavin? Who's on notice?
On Gavin's bulletin board?
Well, being that I typically only cover Houston teams, Texan Live based out of the Houston area.
TexanLive.com?
TexanLive.com.
All season long.
I will actually go with the team not in the Houston area that I saw a little bit of the film that they lost to a Houston team. I'm going to go with Allen.
Okay.
There you
go. I think that's fair.
I think Allen, every year they have a fantastic team. And I do think the loss to Atascocita is a bit alarming, not to take anything away from Atascocita. They've got a fantastic squad this year. I think this is the best team Atascocita's had in a couple seasons. But I do think that that's a game that I think at home, Allen, they were definitely upset that they lost that one. And I think they beat Tyler Legacy last night by a couple touchdowns. So I'd like to see how they do going into district play. They're in a semi-tough district.
And it's like we kind of talked about this earlier, too. If Geyer is to win against Atascocita, that kind of sends up a red flag of maybe a district championship,
right.
Here is – I totally agree with you. I don't know if panic's the right word, but I think that – because I think they're going to make the playoffs and stuff like that.
Right.
It's a different kind of panic. But
it's a panic for Allen fans who are used to winning the championship
If you're talking
every year.
about a state championship caliber team, right now I would have concerns. And especially on the defensive side. This is a team that's giving up nearly 30 points a game. And now, look, they played Atascocita, who's good, all right? But they also played Tyler Legacy, who they've got some weapons, but, Longview held them like
historically
17 points last week.
Yeah, they would have rolled.
They gave up 30 to Plano East. And then they, now they held Cedar Hill to 16. That's impressive, but at the same time, I think Cedar Hill has their own issues offensively. I think you're right. They get a bye week, and then they get 4-0 McKinney-Boyd. Okay? if you want to circle a game that we'll learn a lot about, that's a game that in most years, Allen should roll.
You don't
Allen
look twice at it.
No problem with. That is the first test where it's like, is it broken or is it just taking time to get up to speed? Mm-hmm. Those are two different things. I think we'll find out on October 1st. Or start to find out, I should say.
I'll throw out a team as well, going back to the question of maybe a little bit of panic after this week, and it's a team that we're going back to that same District of Doom, but DeSoto. I know I'm going to be at that game tonight, but
suddenly
DeSoto, that loss to Judson is not aging well.
No, it aged like milk,
and it's aging even worse now after last night.
It aged like fine milk, and
that is not a thing.
They have like their 2 wins are over Arlington Bowie, who's 1-2. In North Crowley, who's 2-1, but frankly, I think that they should overmatch, right? I think they're just better than. And so now they get Duncanville, who is not without their own flaws, by the way. And they've got their own issues. But this is one of those situations that if Duncanville goes out there and blows their doors off, which there's a non-zero chance that happens.
Yeah.
If they go out there and DeSoto gets their doors blown off, then you couple that with the fact that they went to Judson and lost, and Judson is suddenly major issues down there in Judson ISD, that would be alarming to me.
Yes.
That would be alarming because you would have what I would then categorize as a really iffy loss and then a blowout loss. If they go and even if they lose to Duncanville tonight, but they hang,
then you're
I'm
probably
okay
good with the rest
DeSoto
of that
is.
district.
But tonight's an important night. I think it's an important night, and I'm a little worried about DeSoto. What's next, Pickle?
Let's
7 minutes.
7 minutes. Okay, let's go down to the San Antonio area here. You talked about them a little bit earlier, but going to Taft and Kennedy tonight. Any thoughts?
Not Taft and Kennedy. I think you're mistaken. Is that right? I thought Taft played last night. Yeah, no, Kennedy played last night. Oh,
is this a different area?
That's great. Oh, wow, that's really interesting. Because there are 2 San Antonio teams. There's San Antonio Taft
and this
San
is
Antonio
actual
Kennedy.
Taft.
This is Kennedy with 1 N.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Going to Taft and Kennedy. Wow, that happened live on air. That's incredible. Okay. So this is a matchup of unbeatens between the Taft Greyhounds and the Kennedy Lions.
We got to start coming up with different names here,
we
people.
We really do, guys. Okay. Yeah. This is, I think, this is the biggest test to date, in my opinion, for Taft. Even though it's a 2A team, because I do think that this is a Kennedy team that look, I think they're legit. I think the way that the dominance that they've shown has been impressive. I don't think that the resume has not been great as far as the teams that they play, but the dominance with which they've shown is what you want to see. They have gone out there and they've played Progresso, and they've played Woodsboro, and they've played Karn City, and they've held them to a combined 13 points. That's important. Process matters. How you look in these non-district games matters. Now, this is a big test for both of these teams. Taft's best win is probably the win over on the road at Corpus Christi West Oso, but West Oso is also 0-3.
The Bears.
One thing that I would be very interested in is going to see whether or not, because for Kennedy, they have not, in my opinion, they have not shown offensive firepower against a team that's in their weight class. That when they played Karn City in the opener, which is probably their best win, they got held to 18 points. What I want to see is that offensive line get going. I want to see Jaden Chapa, their quarterback, get going. They moved him over to the quarterback spot in the past offseason. Cameron Miller at the running back spot, who was, I think, a district MVP last year. That's going to be the question for me: is can Kennedy get that offense going? Really fun matchup. I think one of those under-the-radar matchups, one of those battle of unbeatens, like a perfect hipster game for Tep and Step. I lean towards Taft, especially at home, and they're the bigger team. But I think that this has a chance to be really interesting, and this would be a real signature win for Kennedy. If they can go on the road and get this win over Taft, I think this would be a real signature win that then, by the way, yes, they're in the Refugio district, and Refugio...
You heard of them?
They're going to be good. But I think that if they were to go to Taft and get a win, I would probably slot them second behind Refugio, probably ahead of Three Rivers, who I think is also having a good year. So, and that they close out the season with Three Rivers at home. So Anyway, really interesting game. Really interesting game. Not in San Antonio. That is, you said the San Antonio, and it is.
Yeah,
it's the
I'm
greater
sorry.
kind of South Texas area, but like that threw me off. I was like, no, Taft and Kennedy don't play. I think Kennedy lost last night. Anyway,
Kennedy with 1 N.
did San Antonio Kennedy? I don't want to besmirch the good name of San Antonio Kennedy.
With
Let's
2
make sure.
N's.
Yeah, let's make sure. Hold on. Let me make sure. I don't want to besmirch. San Antonio Kennedy did lose last night. A heartbreaker to San Antonio Sam Houston.
Okay.
What's that?
Some of these words are the same. We'll round it out with this. Who is a team that was not on your radar at the first part of the season that should absolutely be on your radar at this point?
Gavin, I'll let you go first if you've got one that springs to mind. I got to think about this for a second.
The first one that honestly came to my mind, we talked about it a little bit earlier in the show.
Mm-hmm.
They won last night.
They did.
They are undefeated.
Okay.
Do you have a guess?
Montgomery Lake Creek.
That is them.
Aha. Yes. They've been good.
Bring.
They've been really good. Who is a team that was off my radar that I'm paying a lot of attention to right now? I'll throw a weird one out there. DeKalb.
Yeah.
They got a big win last week over Pilot Point. That kind of caught my eye. I was like, a little interesting there. They're certainly on my radar. I would throw out West as another team that I think is off to a really, really hot start that I'm very interested in. I want to see more of. We mentioned him. He's our player from the Player of the Week. But Taylor,
yeah, the
Brandon
Ducks.
Houston is doing some good work down there with the Ducks. That's a team. I'll also throw one out there, and it's weird to call them like off our radar because I want to say, let me make sure I get this right. But they had a down year last year. They were 4-7 last year, but Monahan's is 3-0.
Mm-hmm.
And they're traditionally very good, but it's been a couple of years since like 2017. They've been down the past couple of years. But Monahan's is 3-0, and they've got a game tonight. Who are they playing? They have an interesting game. Do they? Yeah, they play Fort Stockton. I think that's another battle of unbeaten.
What
Monahan's
about
and Fort Stockton.
what
And I'm
about
excited.
Van?
Yeah, the Vandals
think-
are off to a good start.
I think they kind of shock some people.
Yeah, I'm shocked is too strong for me.
Yeah.
But I would say that they are a team that I think has certainly caught my eye in what they've been able to do. I mean, that win last week over Lindale was impressive, and then the week before they beat Malakoff, and that's obviously good. They should win tonight against Pittsburgh. The next test, I guess in a couple weeks they play Liberty ILO, but I think they're now pretty clearly the favorite, District 7-4A Division 2, and I would look at them as a team certainly to keep an eye on. So yeah, Van is maybe a decent one. That was like they weren't completely off my radar like Montgomery Lake Creek or like Amarillo Palo Duro,
yeah.
right? But they were like on the periphery of my radar that I think I'm now certainly sitting up and paying attention to.
Nice.
Does that answer your question, Pickle? Does that answer your question? I'm so
Wasn't
tired of
my
getting
question.
grilled. That's it. The show's over. Unless you got an ender.
We got an ender here. It has been asked, are we doing a Dave Campbell's game of Uno at State? We're going to have an Uno tournament at State. Look at his eyes light up.
I think we have to.
How many people can play Uno at once?
That is a good question. I've played with as many as probably 5 or 6.
Okay.
I have played Uno with multiple decks of cards if there were a bigger group.
This is true.
You can do that.
Okay.
Are we hearing Uno tournament maybe?
Oh.
Ooh.
Couple
Now,
games at
is Uno, but like when you talk about Uno, like a Uno tournament, it has to be games of like 4 people at a time, right? Is that the optimal amount of people to play a game of Uno?
I'd say 4 is probably the optimal amount. I've
Yeah.
played with 2, and that's when it gets interesting because you're just throwing
Wait, just head to head?
you're just throwing reverse cards at each other, and it's like, and then every reverse card and every skip card is like, oh, it's back to me. Draw 4. So
Wow.
That sounds like Battle of the Death.
1-on-1 is interesting.
What a sociopath you are. You're gonna reverse, skip, draw for somebody.
I've done it many times.
You ever
Put some
see the movie
respect on
American?
this
You ever see the
man's
movie
name.
American Psycho?
Of course I have.
You're him. You're
Patrick
Patrick Bateman.
Yes.
Probably listen to Huey Lewis in the news as you're doing that.
Hip to be square.
Golly. That's an ender. That's going to do it for us. Hey, thanks for watching this clip here on YouTube. If you like this kind of stuff and you want more of it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, you can watch us live every weekday at noon at TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, or here on YouTube. And if you want more of the best coverage of football in the state of Texas, check out TexasFootball.com and become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider at TexasFootball.com/subscribe.